Is this thing on? It is? Okay. Can we talk about how Annie was so hangry that she couldn't stop eating when she was called out by people she hasn't seen in years? That's dedication. Eat, girl. Eat. Another week, another set of chapters, and the festives don't end. Tomorrow, I will have a bonus video covering chapters 128 to 130. But today, we are not missing out on these delicious slices of the Attack on Titan manga pie, chapters 126 to 127, the pie chapters. And because it's the pie chapters, how's Annie doing? Well, pretty great. Likely smelling like a fish, she's eating like she's a famished fish. Annie ditches Hitch, a hitch ditch, one could say, to join Armin, Connie, and the others by reintroducing herself via chomping down on a pie very loudly. And it fits. She's been quiet for so many years that to reintroduce herself, she loudly eats food. But besides Annie returning, I was right about Paradis, me. And Marley joining forces to take out Eren. That's right, I'm smart. IQ 1 billion. It's cool to see, as this is like a meeting of the minds between Hanji and Magath, both commanders of their respective sides. Plus Peak, it's always great to see Peak. It will always make me feel some ways, get me emotional seeing her. Speaking of emotional moments, another emotional moment is when Connie brings Falco to her titanized mother in an attempt to bring her mother back. It doesn't get far when Gabby and Armin stop Connie, but it gets dicey when Connie takes Falco hostage. Armin puts a stop to this by forcing Connie to pick between his mother or Armin as he jumps into the mouth of his mother, but is stopped last second as Connie is, well, forced to save him. And besides the obvious puns I'm sure you guys are going to make in the comments below, this scene is an important moment for both Armin and Connie. I believe that Armin did this as a move that Erwin would do, but as well maybe as a death wish. Let me explain. For most of his life after Erwin's death, Armin has been struggling with living up to Erwin Smith. That much is obvious. In the last chapters, he even snapped at Mikasa because he was having an overload of too many things to process. Erwin, on the other hand, probably would act with clarity and full confidence. And he has a very strong jaw, that's obvious. So of course he would. Armin, by jumping into that Titan's mouth, made a selfless act with clarity and confidence, much like Erwin when he sacrificed himself to capture the Beast Titan. On the other hand, maybe Armin did this for a lack of care for his own well-being, but it was the only thing he could do to snap Connie out of it and prove through action Connie's motives weren't right and that he would have made a mistake by sacrificing Falco. At the end of the day, making Connie's mother the Colossal Titan or the Nutcracker would only serve to be an unfair burden on his mother. She's just a housewife from Ragako, not a trained soldier like Armin or Falco, at least I hope not. And while she's likely living through a nightmare of her own as a Titan, is it worse to sacrifice a child or his friend? I don't know. Plus, with their goals of joining forces, sacrificing Falco or Armin would probably be a huge mistake. At least a huge mistake. One could say a colossal mistake. But it seems both lament and vent on their sad states and positions. Connie, being a soldier, would eventually kill women, men, and children, and Armin, someone who couldn't live up to the lofty expectations of Erwin. Needless to say, I enjoyed Connie's character and progression in this chapter. So at the end, when he's the one to stir Reiner to action and the one to say the line, "To save the world," I got goosebumps, my friends. Gooses are on my arms right now. This is just another example of Isayama being good with giving his secondary and supporting characters the shine when they need it. And I, for one, think this chapter was a beautiful way to, most likely, send out Connie's character for the rest of the manga. Chapter 127 is really like one big therapy session to get everyone onto the same page for the final battle that awaits Marley and the Survey Corps. This starts from what's left of the Survey Corps as Hanji lays out what they have to do, asking Mikasa and Jean what they want to do. Mikasa wants to help Hanji stop Eren's genocide, even though she's very close to Eren, which surprises Hanji somewhat. Jean, on the other hand, is looking at the realistic side, which is very consistent for his character, and that even if they save Marley, they will still, at the end of the day, not be safe. Hanji still wants to do the right thing and joins forces with Marley to stop Eren, though for Hanji, it's different for her. She's dealing with the weight of the 13 commanders that came before her, and with the spirits of those watching her, all of which you likely didn't even know about humanity outside the walls, feels she has a responsibility to go forth and do this for humanity. To throw back to one of my previous videos, which you all should check out, this is oddly similar to how I perceived Kruger telling Grisha to finish the fight even though he was trying to give up. Once Grisha passed that wall as a kid, he was thrust into this position, and whether he likes it or not, has an unspoken responsibility to continue on in their memory. Hanji, much like Grisha and Kruger, now has to act, and that's what she's choosing to do, which is the right decision. But even so, joining forces won't be that simple. No. The sides of Marley and Paradis have much to iron out before they can get on the same page. Not even Hanji's stew and campfire setting can wash away these issues. And needless to say, tensions rise and boil, and it kicks off with Magath and Jean arguing about the history of both of the sides. Jean argues that the people of Paradis aren't guilty because of the sins of the father, while Magath has 2,000 years of history and oppression to justify hating Paradis. Both make some really good points here. And this scene, to me, actually shows how much of a natural leader Jean is, and while he wants to have like a comfortable life of drinking wine and taking it easy, he's too good of a man with a strong moral compass to leave things in a bad state like this. Annie, on the other hand, wants to make sure Mikasa will do what she has to if push comes to shove, and Eren won't back down. Mikasa still holds onto this dream that Eren will be alright, when I think Annie may be right in saying that maybe talking to Eren just won't be enough. I mean, think about it. Mikasa, on the other hand, wants to shut Annie up, and her reaction to this is kind of funny because Annie backs down from Mikasa immediately. This shows how intimidating Mikasa is when she gets angry, and how even a hand-to-hand combat expert like Annie wouldn't dare go any further. Though selfishly, I would kill to see a hand-to-hand fight between these two, though I am digressing. I do think at the end of the day, Mikasa will make the right decision. While we've seen both Eren and Mikasa act emotionally in the past and favor their friends over others, think back to when Armin's life was in the balance, Mikasa had to even be held back and forced down to stop her from doing something. You still can't possibly ignore Eren murdering a good portion of the world's population now, can you? Not even Mikasa, in my opinion, could do that. Or Hanji stew. But then again, I would go back for seconds. For Yelena, it's revealed an awful lot about her was simply just a story she faked and created to follow Zeke. One could call her a mega simp. This comes as a surprise to me, but not out of the realm of possibility for our tall revolutionist lady. Yelena so far has done a good job in manipulating and murdering her comrades, and it makes me think if Eren knew that all along. Though on the other hand, maybe it didn't matter much to begin with, as he would betray them either way. Now this brings us to, the betrayal of Marco and his last words being really the biggest reveal of this chapter. And, needless to say, Jean isn't a fan of Reiner, and he won't forgive him, and beats his face in a fit of rage, even kicking Gabby, who's just trying to defend Reiner. He kicked Gabby Goat. Come on. You can't do that. Jean in these last couple of chapters, though, has been simply phenomenal, and it's funny how when he was introduced, I thought he was a selfish and entitled person, but now he's changed so much. On the other hand, it's Marco's last words of "we still haven't talked" coming full circle as they all realized this could have been avoided if they had just talked it out, kind of like how they're doing now. And once again, Isayama writes like he has it all planned out from the very beginning with these amazing callbacks and plot threads. In retrospect, I think these moments make these early chapters and season 1 so much better than they really actually are. Though it seems even now on the same page that the Jaegerists are one step ahead, and to get their flying boat to survey the founding titan, they'll have to go through Flock to save their precious Azumabito representative. These chapters were simply incredible, and I loved how they focused on the supporting cast and their issues, especially those campfire panels. That was top-notch writing that rewards people who actually pay attention. If you haven't, be sure to comment on your theories on the next chapter, but as well, your thoughts on what happened in these chapters. I love to hear what you have to say. Remember to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to help the channel grow, of course. And yeah, thank you all for watching. Much appreciated. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.